This is Sara with Posh Pooch Designs, and for this video I'm going to show you how to make our shawl. It's a brand new release. We're calling it the Healing Shawl Wrap. Stitching with shell stitches, and on one end the edge is straight, and then on the other end we do a slanted edge by decreasing one shell each row. Now this is a big shawl. It measures 60 inches long and the width of it is about 19 inches across. And even though it's a huge shawl, it's really an easy shawl. It comes out elegant and lacy and can be excuse me, and can be worn at any time, morning, day, evening, or night. You can use it as a shawl. You can use it as a scarf just by scrunching it up. And this yarn, isn't it beautiful? It looks like waves of the ocean and shades of teal with white. And what this yarn is this. This is Lion Brand's shawl in a ball. The color that I used for this is called Healing Teal. And you're going to need about 1.5 skeins. This skein, or skein, however you want to say it, has about, let's see, it says 5.3 ounces. And I used one whole one and then a little over a half a one. So I put it at about 11 ounces of yarn. You're going to need to buy 2. And this is a really neat yarn. When I first started working with it, it seemed kind of thin. It has a little bit of a boucle bump to it, but it's very thin, and it is put at a number 4. And when I first started working with it, I thought, I don't know if I like this. But then after I got in a couple of rows, I just fell in love with it. It's a good sturdy yarn. It makes it have a nice lacy look, as you can see. And just, it's bumpy but thin, and it's just really a great yarn. And I just love it, and it is perfect for this project. So you're going to need 2 skeins of our yarn, roughly about 11 ounces, and we're going to be stitching with our eye hook. And I chose the eye hook because I wanted my stitches to be open and lacy for this project. So and of course you're going to need a needle to weave in your ends, and I don't think we're going to be doing much cutting because you work through the whole skein and then you start your next skein and you work until you reach the end. So anyway, go out and grab you a couple of skeins. Now, I ordered this right off the Lion Brand website, so you can do that. But I've also seen this at Michael's, I believe, and Joann Fabrics, so you can also get them there. And I don't have like AC Moore and some of the other ones in my area here in Colorado, but you can check all your different yarn places. But to be honest with you, I found it the cheapest right through the Lion Brand website. So go gather your stuff and we'll get started. Now, I did want to remind you that this is a new release, and it's also a free pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link in the notes right underneath the video. Now, to begin with, you're going to need to chain 52 chains. And I'm not going to be making a whole nother shawl. I'm just going to show you how to make the stitches and then the decreased stitches in order to make you one. So I just chained out some chains here. But for the pattern, to make it the size that I have made, you're going to need to chain 52 chains. And also note that the chain 3 at the beginning of each round does count as your first double crochet on the next row. I said round, I meant row. So once you've chained your 52 chains, you're going to need to put 1 double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. The first 3 chains is going to count as your first double crochet. So 1, 2, 3. And another thing to remember when working with this yarn is it's a good idea to do your beginning chain a little bit loose, because you'll have a little trouble finding those initial stitches in your chain if you chained too tightly. All right, so 1, 2, 3, and to double crochet we yarn over, we go in that 4th chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first two, yarn over, go through the next two. And so the first 3 chains counted as your first double crochet, and then we double crocheted in that 4th chain. And for this first row, we're going to be double crocheting in each chain across. And this is just the foundation on the straight edge. The first edge of the wrap or the shawl, I actually call it a wrap shawl because it's not a shawl that's pointed, it's just a big huge rectangle with one edge tapered. And we're starting at the straight edge, and it will be a little bit difficult to find those chains if you chain too tightly. So make sure you did nice loose chains, and you just chain straight across. And again, like I said, I did not chain 52. I just threw some chains on my hook, I think about 22 maybe 32, I can't remember, just so that I can show you how to work the stitches to make this shawl. So in our initial chain, we're stitching 1 double crochet in each chain across. 1 double crochet in each chain across, and of course, like I said, I did not chain the 52. I'm just showing you how to make the wrap shawl. Remember, you need to chain 52. Then you turn, 1 double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook, and then in each stitch across, and then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn. And that first chain 3 counts as your first double crochet. Alright, so then you're going to place 1 double crochet in the next double crochet. And now we're going to begin our shell stitches. And the shell stitches is what makes this pattern so lovely and lacy. So what you're going to do is you're going to skip the next 2 double crochets. Then you're going to place in that, or skipped 1, 2, and then in this next double crochet, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. There's 1, and there's 2. Then we're going to chain 1. Some more yarn out here. And then we're going to place 2 more double crochets in that same double crochet, and that is our shell stitch. There are lots of different variations on the shell stitch, and that's the one that we're doing for this scarf. Okay, so we skipped 2 double crochets, and then in the next stitch we stitched 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 1, and this will be our pattern all the way across until we reach the last 2 double crochets. We're going to chain 1, we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets, and then in that next double crochet we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets, 1, 2, and then we'll repeat. Pull that hook up a little. There we go. We'll continue to repeat this. Chain 1, skip 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And we'll continue to repeat that until we reach the last 2 double crochets. So I chained 1, skipped 2 double crochets, then in the next stitch I'm going to stitch 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. And like I said, we'll chain 1 and we'll repeat our shell stitches all the way across to the last 2 double crochets. Once you have done all of your shell stitches. Now again, you're going to be stitching across 52. I did not do that many. This is just a demonstration. When you get to the last stitches, you're going to do your chain 1, and then you're going to skip those last 2, and then you're just going to place 1 double crochet in the last 2 double crochets. And you'll have this on the ends, on both ends. Let me go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And although your shawl will be 52 long, 19 inches, the way that it will look is you'll have 2 double crochets on the end, and then you'll have your shell stitches, and then 2 double crochets on the end. And you'll do that all the way up for as many rows. Let me look on my notes. We're going to have, looks like 81 rows of shell stitches. Okay, now let's do the third row so that we understand where our shell stitches go. So we've chained the 3. We're going to put a double crochet in that double crochet. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to go to that chain 1 space in between those 2 double crochets, and we're going to stitch a shell stitch. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets right in the center of that shell stitch in the chain 1 space. Then we'll chain 1, and then we'll continue this all across our row. You'll put 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space in between the shell stitch, in between the 2 double crochets. So you're doing a shell stitch and a shell stitch. So there's our beginning 2 double crochets. Then we chained 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in that chain 1 in the center of our shell stitch, chain 1, and we'll do this all across the row. Chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, oops, get it caught in my finger, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and we'll do this all across the row. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and then when we get to, in our last chain 1, or our last shell stitch, and then we chain 1, we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of those last 2 double crochets, chain 3, 2, 3. Now, this is the way the whole scarf is worked, the whole shawl, wrap, scarf, whatever you want to call it, because it can be used for several things. That's the way that it's worked. And let me show you the end of it here. Oops, that's the variegated end. There we go. Let me pull that in a little. We worked our chains 52 across of double crochet. I've got this folded so it'll fit in my screen all the way across, and then we began our shell stitches. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet, chain 1, all the way across our row. And then we're going to do this, and you can do it as long as you want it to. Now, I did it for 81 rows, and it makes a really nice long scarf. And works great for a wrap because it's 19 inches wide. And now I'm going to show you how to begin the decrease rows on the edges so that you can have this nice little shelled edge. And it just makes such a beautiful touch on our wrap. To make our beautiful shell edge or scalloped edge, this is how you would do it. When you get the length that you want, of course this is just 2 rows, but I'm showing you, in demonstration. Once you get the length that you want long-wise of your wrap, we're going to begin decreasing by 1 shell. And what we'll do is when you get on the first row to decrease, we're not going to stitch in those last 2 double crochets. What we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. I already chained 1. We're going to 2, 3, and then you're going to turn. And then you're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the first double crochet. And then you'll skip that chain 1 space and you'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. Like that. So we didn't stitch in this end. We turned, we chained 3, we stitched in the second double crochet, we skipped the chain 1 space, and we stitched 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets of that first shell. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to stitch back across the same way, going in the shell stitches. Whoops, there we go. Back across our work. Chain 1, 2 double crochets exactly the same all across our work. Now we did our decrease here, and then we stitched normal shell stitches back across, and then we did a double crochet at the end because this end is still going to remain straight. Only this end will have the scallop edges. And so we're going to put 1 double crochet in each of those 2 double crochets. Well, we chain 3, counts our first, and then 1 double crochet. And then we'll stitch the shell stitches across, only we won't be stitching in this last shell stitch. And this is how the scalloped edge is going to be formed. So, chained 3, we're going to place 1 double crochet in this double crochet, chain 1, and then we'll stitch a shell stitch, 2 double crochets, chain 1, and 2 double crochets. 1, 2, chain 1, there we go. Had a little loopy there, and this yarn can get a little loopy sometimes, so you just have to get used to using it. That's what I said. At first I didn't like it, and then after I got to using it, I just loved it. Okay, so we're going to stitch 1 more shell. Oops, there we go. 1, 2, chain 1, 1, 2, and we go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you can see this is our edge, and then we scalloped back here, and we're doing the same thing here, and we're going to do here exactly what we did here. We've got our chain 3, we're going to turn, we're going to place 1 double crochet in that first double crochet. We're going to skip the chain 1 space, and then we're going to double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. 1, there we go, 2, chain 1, and then we go back and do it like we did before. 1 shell in each shell, 1 shell stitch in each shell stitch, 2 double crochets, then we'll turn 2 double crochets, and we'll do 2. And each one you'll end up with this fun little scalloped edge, and you continue to do that. There it is. You will continue to do this with the scalloped edge all the way down until the last shell. And you can see this whole edge remained straight, and this edge has the shell. And once you get to the last shell, you tie off and weave in your end. And that's all there is to it. And I'll show you on this other one how to do the end real quick. So we're going to finish our shell stitches on this row. 1, 2, chain 1, and we got our shell stitch. Chain 1, 2 shell stitches. And then for our straight edge, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And you can see our scallop edge forming there. Down to your last row, you've done your 2 double crochets, and then we're going to do our last shell. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. You're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to place 1 double crochet in that first double crochet, skip that chain 1 space, and place 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. And you're going to skip that chain 1 space and just put 1 double crochet in those last 2 double crochets, and then you're just going to tie off, and that's the end of how to make the scalloped edge. It makes just a gorgeous pretty end like I showed you already. There we go. It makes just a gorgeous end. You can flop it over, wrap it around your neck and flop it over. I mean, it just is really pretty. And there's our end, our 4 double crochets, and then our last 2 double crochets. And you can see, I mean, it's just so pretty, and it has just such a nice little touch. Now, if you do not want to do this scalloped edge, you can do the whole scarf with the plain straight shell stitches like we did here. And then when it's as long as you want, just tie off and weave in your end, and you can have 2 straight edges on your shawl wrap scarf if you want to. That's the neat thing about this pattern, is it's super simple, but it makes a gorgeous wrap shawl.